Welcome to Curating Dreams, a creatives podcast. We're doing fuschia in 2023. We're affirming, creating, and visioning. I'm glad to be here at Jumbo Spaces with two amazing creatives. Actually, they're not just creators, they're a lot more than that. Two individuals that I have a lot of respect for, have worked with. Meeting Elom for the first time, but I've admired your work for the longest time. And just a quick segue, before this started, we were just talking about how this is long overdue, breaking down the frontiers and working. Because for those who don't know, Elom Vance is a Togolese artist. I'm not fixated on nationality because those are borders that we're not interested in, but just to know that he came all the way. And so happy to have this happen. My name is Crystal Tete, joined by
Pyoko
and Elom Vance.
Elom Vance, yeah.
Thank you. So in the days leading up to this, Elom asked me, why doing fuschia in 2023? What does it mean? And I've also had feedback sometimes what we do as artists remains abstract, so we need to come down to earth a bit. So a little context. The world is very chaotic at the moment. There's no scoop there, especially in Ghana, West Africa, and in Africa as a whole. Our institutions of responsibility, if I can call them that, are not doing what they should do. They haven't done much in past years, so that also shouldn't be a surprise. But we're choosing success, we're choosing joy, we're choosing to make things happen regardless of the circumstances, and that's what the fuchsia is. The color, the brightness, the exuberance, that's what it represents. So right down to it, what does our highest self look or feel like? You guys are looking too serious, so maybe in conversation.
Well, these are serious questions.
Yeah, I guess.
It's a serious conversation. So we should start.
I could go anyone of us.
Sure.
All right, so you start, Crystal. You're hosting us.
All right.
Jump right in.
I feel like I attain my highest self when I'm creating, and when I have my most trying moments, when things look like they're not working, that's when it brings out the best in me. It's like I develop muscles that I didn't know I had. Even today, so many things were out of sync, but that was even more energizing, and gives me that future vibe, if you will. Yeah.
Well, let me start by being a little philosophical. We talk about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? And what does that tell us? From the base of the pyramid, you're looking for the bread and the butter, the food, the water, where to live. You go a little higher up, security, and security in every sense of the word, financial, having the police and the forces that need to protect you and the society and the community you live in, all that. And you go up and then you look for the emotions, the love, the joy, the happiness, the companionship. Above that, then you come to esteem, right? So your confidence building, being able to tap into, so picking those emotions from the rung below it and tapping into them to push yourself higher. And then at the pinnacle of it all, you have self-actualization. And when you look at it, self-actualization talks a lot about being able to attain your highest level of creativity and tapping into that to be innovative, to give back to your society, to solve problems. And I think that on a daily basis, that's what creatives do. So for me, just being able to be blessed to create is having attained my highest self. And I'm grateful for that every day. I think a lot of the time as creators, we take for granted what we can do. Not everybody can do what we can do. Creatives have a little bit of a higher force in them. We have a bit of a creator in us. And that's a huge responsibility, but it's also a huge blessing, the blessing and the curse kind of thing, And sometimes in our abundance, we are cursed because we don't necessarily know what to do with it, especially when our surroundings throw difficulties and challenges our way. But for me, just being able to create at any given time is a manifestation of my higher self, and I acknowledge that every day.
Higher self. I don't know if I have the answer to that question. to be very frank. I think it's a process. It's something that we're still looking for. But maybe I'll just use one word, that is peace. I think my higher self is when at peace with myself. And peace with myself also means that I'm in love with myself. So maybe, yeah, to make it short, peace and love with myself. And I don't know if it's a process. It's a process. And each time maybe I create, maybe I try to get that higher self, just to ignore everything around me and just externalize what I have inside me. But since I know that creativity is something that can nourish people, and I don't want to poison people, I need to go inside myself to find that kind of peace, but it's not something easy, especially in this chaotic moment. Yeah.
I like that you mentioned process, because I tend to be hard on myself and almost think of self-actualization or that higher self as some destination, and always hoping to stay there, to attain it and stay there. But then, there are moments, down moments, depression, whatever. Things don't go as we expect all the time. So it's constantly working on oneself and one environment, and I like that reminder. But, closely linked to getting the work done and making things happen is this idea of DIY. We exemplify that in everything we do. I think about you, for example, Elom, and how you're a filmmaker, you're a rapper, poet, you have Ancestral records, you do your own recording, producing, mixing, you have your clothing label, you're wearing it, you were saying earlier how you book your own tours, so more or less, when everything around us feels looking in, please speak a little about that, Jen, because it's really inspiring,
I think we were born in an environment where you have to do things by yourself. You are countries like me. I was born in Togo, but my father, for instance, was working in Ghana, Benin. My father was living in Tema Committee for those days. So, yeah, I can talk about like Togo, Ghana, Benin, environment where the institutions are not there doing what they have to do. So once you understand that, you know that, okay, you have to do things by yourself. That's the first thing. And the second, too, we need to build things that can sustain. And to achieve that, I think you have to be frank with yourself. And me, I never dreamed to be a rapper. I never dreamed to be this. I studied law. My parents wanted me to go to law school. Law. And yeah, I was writing, but I write a lot. And I was speaking to people that are in my imagination. It started like that. So one day I just want to go on stage. I say I have to do my own clothes, because why should I go to, you have like kind of makola here in Togo. We call it Rejanawe, where you go and take things that obroni or obroni wewu. You call it abloni, and even people tell me that it's coming from Ghana. You call it abloni there. You say obroni wewu, and say why should I go and take that? No, I have to do things like if I'm talking about Africa, Pan-Africanism, etc. I need to tap into my culture. So I think everything just started by trying to find my own way, not to follow someone or follow any rules. Like, I need to create my own way. So one day I started to be a rapper. I started doing my own films because, like, I was paying people to do videos for me. I was like, this is not what you're talking about. So one day I tried. So it's by trying, let's say, I think it's by trying that we can also achieve things like you don't know very well where you are going to, but you know that this is what you desire, this is what you want. So I think that's my process. Like, if there's something that exists, create it. Sure. If you need in something, create it. Don't wait for anybody to do it for you. And once you start it, you realize that everything is possible. And we have all the tools around us. And once you start thinking about the thing, the tools comes to you. So yeah, I think it's by trying and by dreaming. Maybe you should dream. I dream a lot. Dreaming. I think we need to dream, because by dreaming, you achieve things that you think you cannot do. So yeah, creating ways, dreaming, and yeah, manifest joy too. Because in a way, there's a proverb said that if something is very hard, you have to do it by joy. Like people farming, they're singing, you know. So yeah, doing by joy, because what you plant with joy will flourish. So yeah, that's the way I'm trying to do.
And all three of us, it's worth mentioning, are poets, are storytellers, and we're changing the narrative. And Apioko, you in particular, you're in a very interesting and special place because you work with City TV as head of programs, right? And as a creative, I find that a very I'm looking for a word to say. It's the chance to change so many things, and I imagine that you have to do so many. You're a tug of war daily, perhaps even. What's that like? The extraordinary chance to change
I'll start by
things.
saying that was never my plan to do media. I mean, before I entered media, I was teaching full time and then going on a poetry journey with a halakasa and all that. Now, I entered media for two main reasons. One of my students asked me in a class one day, and this is a 13-year-old student, said to me, Mr. Shong, you're encouraging us to write our own poetry and do interesting things. What do we do with that after school? Assuming we become poets or writers, what do we do with that? And I thought it was a very extraordinary question because this student was asking this in the context of assuming that they are remaining in Ghana or on the African continent. One. Secondly, Akosia Hansen, you mentioned her earlier. So Akosia one day said to me that, look, we're doing something interesting at City. We're building what production should look like in Ghana's BBC. And we need writers to do that. So would you come? Now, when I went to City, I wasn't going as a producer. I was going to do brands because this is around 2013, 2014, when brands in Ghana were understanding that storytelling was a huge part of the story. So my boss wanted a storyteller to come and handle brands. But I got there and I ended up doing production. Now, you spoke a little bit about changing the narrative and having to create. The role that I occupy now, so I actually I'm the head of programs production, and my work has created that role. It hadn't existed before. Mm-hmm. What do? On a daily basis, I oversee 52 productions on radio and TV. I have about 16 to 17 producers that I'm working with day in, day out. Then there are all these projects, there are events that we do because we run the mixed format media, which includes events, which are off-air programs. We can't do media in Ghana and in Africa the way it's done in the West. It won't work. If we're going to tell our own stories, if we're going to build businesses out of it, we can't do it the way we've been seeing it done elsewhere. And so on a daily basis, that's the struggle. But then how do I do that while including creatives in that narrative? So for example, when we started TV, I fought hard and I said, you know what, we need to have a segment on the morning show that allows creatives to come and perform. And not established creatives that are known as A-listers. People who have been basking for years. People who sit in their rooms and write and need an outlet. They just need a little bit of exposure to take them to the next level where a record label or an investor may find what they do interesting and jump on it. Let's partner creative events that are not necessarily raking in thousands of people, but they have impact in the community that they're happening. And we did that. And even prior to that, I remember when the first time I suggested to my boss, let's have a poet on an event bill. This was in 2014. He said, yeah, but how does that sell our event? But fast forward, I don't even have to say it. So Apioko, so your people, you know, people. That kind of thing, your people, they should come. And for me, that's the beauty of what I do. It's not about the position or, you know, going on air. I never even wanted to be on air. Anything I do on air is just about 5% of my entire job at City. And it's because maybe at that particular time, I was the only one who could do it. So hosting the show with the Diplomat's Diplomatic License, for example, I have a background in international relations and cultural diplomacy and how, you know, we had been talking a lot about, at the time, about the fact that so many diplomats in Ghana representing different cultures, and they're finding their own way to immerse themselves in our culture, and they're taking the stories away the way they see them. Mm-hmm. How can we step in as media and make sure that we also have some kind of control in how those stories are projected? this cultural appropriation thing. And it may sound like a very simple thing, but when I sit down and I talk to a diplomat about trade, we're eating jollof.
You have a show,
Yes,
diplomatic.
Exactly. So we're eating jollof. We're going to Shy Hills to go and hike. We're playing with the Accra Tennis Lawn Club. That's exposure for local tennis players. And you're taking the ambassadors right to their doorstep, And then with the cooking show, Afrofusion. So we are making bakoshito tea. There are all sorts of interesting things. So with media, it's always really been about bringing the creativity and making it more practical, but also opening up the media space and building Ghana and Africa's own way of doing media. And I'm happy to say that in working with City, we've built partnerships with the BBC itself, with CNN, with the Voice of America, with DW, with Al Jazeera. And when I go for international conferences to speak about what we do, we are doing it right. And now, more than ever, the international community thinks Africa is cool. So really, what we need now is to end up in the policy conversations, which is the next leg of what we're using media to do. So now when you go on air, if you listen to City, you watch City, we're talking a lot about policy for the creative arts, how creative arts is a low-hanging fruit to solve our economic problems, how the government needs to be interested, the government needs to create framework to support creatives, because we are actually the future. We've done everything with the law and the medicine, we've done all that. But what people cannot take away from us is our culture. And creatives are the ones who make that culture a reality. They put structure to it.
It's called the orange
economy.
Yeah.
So that's where we are now. And really, to answer your question with media, that's my daily struggle. What next can we do? Because you mentioned earlier, Crystal, that a lot of people don't really understand what we do as creatives. It remains very abstract in a lot of ways. So on a daily basis, how do we bring that and then use our media as a vehicle to disseminate what we do, so that people begin to understand that it's something that they need to be vested in, not just interested in, but vested in.
Thanks, Apioko. So we're talking storytelling, and Elon Vance doesn't play.
He doesn't.
His artwork always speaks volumes. This is one of his. This is the musical side of Elon Vance. And I like the fact that you're always, I won't call it the past, you're always going into our ancestral wisdom, for the present. Your language, your symbolism, your clothing, everything speaks volumes, and everything is a message, that's bold, strong, and communicating so much. Please sell yourself small, and then, and why you are so invested in what we already have in our tradition, yeah.
Thank you. Maybe I haven't said it, but I'm very happy to be here, because for me, before talking about all this, I think it's very important, fundamental, that we as African, we look more our culture, we look more Africa. Like, we go to Europe, most of the time we don't meet in Africa. Like Ghana, Togo, we are same people, but because I don't speak French and English, sorry if my English is not perfect, I'm trying.
It's perfect.
But, and I'm very happy to be here first. I think what we are doing right now is part of even that fuschia thing. Like, we are shifting the perspective. It's no more like, it's an institute. No, we are doing things by ourselves. So I think that's the core of the work. So selling myself, I'm not a good seller. Let's say I'm not a good seller. I'm a creative. I have ideas. So I think today I'm considering myself as someone who wants to excavate the past, questioning the present, and archiving the future. I think that's the way I work. And I think I've read this morning the article written by Yawa Sare, and he got it perfectly. Like, they came to my show in Lome, the last date of Amilga tour, and he said, okay, political, intimate, and spiritual. I think that's the three bases of what I'm trying to do. I've learned international relation too. When you come to international relation class in Europe, Togo, Benin, at a certain point, you ask yourself question, who are we? And who we want to be? Who are we and we want to be? Our name, for instance, Apioko will explain that Apioko means God in Ga. We're talking about Adinkra symbolism, Gan symbolism, etc. But those are not things that we learn at school. So I think that my arts basically is just like a journey of me trying to understand who we are as people and who I am as a human being. So each time I question myself, I'm not trying to use the tools of research, quantitative, qualitative, for those who are doing research in a westernized way, but finding it differently. So for instance, Ameoga for me, that album is not an album for me. You call it an album. But for me, it was like a laboratory to experience things. And Discover, for instance, for me was like, okay, that's my son there. And I love Discover because that very day, I was supposed to be there at his place. But I was so tired. When he came this morning, you are fixing things here. I said, take it easy. Because, I have to get that chair, to get all these cantes, to place everybody, and say, right now I'll go and sit down and took the picture. But I was so tired at the end of the day because, no, I said, I'm tired. I'm tired. And I told my son, go and sit down and see. And I love the fact that his feet are, he can know that the feet on the ground. And he's there because he's well surrounded by elders, by small people that he can entertain with. So I have a lot to say. Just to make it short, I think that we need to think with different tools. And me, I'm thinking with music. I'm thinking with music, for instance. I was telling that my next project, I did in one night. We just go in studio, a pianist guy and me. I wrote a lot. And I'll ask him to play the piano as if he's eating yam and palava sauce, for instance. How does it taste? Play it. He said, Elom, you kill me. How I can play the things that way? I say, yeah, because for me, sound and taste, there's something there, but it's something I want to dig more. I put it just in parentheses. But I know one day I'll do a project where you have food, you have music, and people enjoy. How do you put that together, for instance? This can take things, not to this date, everybody, I don't have anything against wax and etc. But how can we value our own fabrics, for instance? Me, those days, I was going to, I was coming to Ghana just to go and dig kente. Near Titikwashiran, but there's a guy selling things there. Sometimes say, I can't say this to you because that's the last part of it. So for me, it's like digging in the past, like our proverbs, our symbol, our languages. I think you have a lot there that we can explore. But at the same time, I don't just want to do music. So today's date, I think I'm more like filmmaker is representing me more because by doing movies and by doing documentaries, etc., music is there, writing is there, clothing is there because your people, you have to wear them. Like if, for instance, I want him to be maybe the bad guy in one other, why I want it to be here, etc. So, yeah, let's say that me, I'm just enjoying my life. I'm enjoying my life. I'm just trying to like, for instance, all these rings are Adinkra symbols. Like when I heard about Adinkra symbols, I said, how can I sell this to people? Not that like selling the ring itself, but I found myself, for instance, in Europe, I don't know if Paris or Geneva, when I was planning, I have my brand Astrafo. Astrafo means warriors. Though you have Astrafo Records, Astrafo, and a guy came to me and said, you are a politician. Like, you're talking about politics here. I said, why are you saying that? I said, I was listening to you. You're talking about Bogolan from Mali, Senegal, Burkina Faso. Like what Bogolan means, what Kente means, what our symbols means. Sankofa, what the meaning of Sankofa, etc. So for me, those things were the results of my own research. I spent I don't know how many, I have 3 masters, for instance. And each time, every people are selling their culture to me. I did. So I was asking my teachers, World Bank, like former people work, I said, if you don't have, you are teaching me things, but what are the solutions to our problems? You see, so to make it short, I think that I'm just trying things. I want us to be proud of who we are. I'm not saying that everything in Africa is perfect, but I think we need to face our problems. We need to choose, not choose one when it's difficult, but not choose facilities like it's easy, not easiest way. When it's hard, you have to go to it. That's the way we create things. And it's easy for me doing it through culture, through art. I think maybe one of the projects I'm most proud of is a project that we call Artivism, Art and Activism. And that project was launched in 2009 in Lomé. But that project was born when I was still in the campus. Because I said, we need to create like spaces, public universities, where people can come and learn from our own history. So Artivism is one evening, 3 parts, we screen videos about our leaders, black, white, yellow, fuschia, we don't care. But if you fought for Africa, we need to celebrate you because we are coming from culture where we celebrate our ancestors. So those people who died for Africa, we need to celebrate them. We need to know them because most of them are erased from our books. The second part is conversation. I think conversation is very important because that helps us to share our thoughts and learn from each other. And the third point is the more ludic part of the thing, the show, drawing, painting, dancing, rapping, poetry, etc. So that project from 2009 to today, like in Paris, October, we are doing the 34th, that's good English? I don't know. 3 and 4 chapter.
Yeah, 34th chapter.
34th on Dulcie September, who's an activist from ANC that had been killed in Paris. You see, so that journey, we did one in Ghana on Marcus Garvey. Those days we One Love and many people. And each time we go to African countries, and each time we come to a country, we see that, who are the people that we can partner with? So in Ghana, for instance, Moshood is here, Selom those days, One Love, that guy who played Chiche Kuchu, but also that guy from the north, Steve-O, etc. And we bring Steve-O to Benin. So I think that project is maybe one of the most complete because we can meet, we can think together, and we can explore our culture. So I don't know if I sold myself, but yeah, I think.
You did really well.
Yeah.
Thanks so much. And so far from one little detail, I know we know, but for the benefit of those who don't know, once upon a time, Ghana and Togo were one country, British Togoland, French Togoland. All of those borders we're not interested in anymore. We're breaking them every day. So far, it sounds to one who's not a creative that everything is fantastic because, we've spoken as if, we own our present, we own our narrative, we own everything, and it could seem that everything goes smoothly. But I'd like us to focus also now, talk a little about what we do when it's not fantastic, the down moments. For example, how do we make boss moves on minimal capital? You're down to your last 200 CDs. Like, you have a show to organize, you have things to run. What happens? And for me, one of the things I rely on is allyship. So then you have other forms of capital. I know that I can call Black and say, Charlie, you get this person I go fee borrow, or you get this venue I go fee use, and then you make it happen, So it's not always cash, the people at some point, they become your family, your network. But how do you make boss moves when the pockets make dry?
Well, Chris, I think you've answered the question, so I'll just expand it. There are different kinds of currency. There's the money as we know it. But for me, the most valuable currency is your social currency. And that, I thank my father for teaching me. Now, my father is an economist, a very accomplished one at that. But when we were growing up, he used to encourage us to be friends with his friends. He said, this network I have, so I'm going here. My father has worked with all the governments of the Fourth Republic. My parents lived in the US for 20 years, never got green cards because they always wanted to come back to Ghana. And I always say this, any platform I didn't have a hustle when I was growing up. We were very comfortable. But my father used to tell us, he said, your biggest asset is not money, it is your social capital. And he used to tell us when his friends would come over and they're talking, he'd say, come and sit down, because you should inherit my friends. And so if today I can pick up a phone and call some big man or big woman, is because they've now become my friend, and it's not just my father's friend who I'm calling. We have a relationship on our own. And for me, that's how I've coasted through this place. I say that now, my art pays me more than media. There's no money in media, in case you didn't know. At least not in our part of the world. On the continent, it's the East Africans and the Southern Africans who are really controlling the media economy, because they've had a lot of investments from Silicon Valley, the digital awareness space and all that. Even their creative space is growing because of that. But in Western Africa, especially in Ghana, you know, what we do have, there's a lot of intellect and institutional knowledge, which these people who have the money need. So we need to collaborate cross-continent. But how do we do it? Social capital. I cannot stress it enough. Like you said, you're able to call a Black or someone else in your network and say, I need this, can you help me? Can you step in for me? And then also recognizing that even your talent is also capital. So you can, in the creative space, we do a lot of barter trade, and we don't even realize that that's what it is. But it's a very powerful tool. Look, you can get to the point where if you have built your social capital enough, you need very little money to make the boss moves. Very little. There's a reason why, and I'll come to social constructs at the risk of sounding condescending, there's a reason why the nouveau riche, the new money, they are very loud, and why old money is very quiet. Old money doesn't necessarily have cash, but they have strong network. So I may not be able to afford school fees of $50,000 a year, but the fact that I have contacts in the university that charges that, I can call and say, can you find a place for my daughter or my son if they get the right grades? And you'd be surprised at the number of people, even in Ghana, who have that kind of access. So as creatives, as we build community, it's something that we need to realize that, yeah, money is not everything. Money is important for our day-to-day living, yes, but it's not everything, especially when we want to expand our practice and enter spaces that are unprecedented. We need to be getting out of the quintessential creative spaces. Attend a World Bank seminar. Attend some seminar where you go and meet Fortune 500 company CEOs. Network, speak to them, let them understand what you're doing, because another reason why we are, as creatives, typically not able to tap into certain spaces and get benefits is because they don't know who we are and what we are doing. The people who can afford our art and our craft, they don't know us. So we need to go to them and show them that there's an opportunity here. We're talking about AI today. That's how the Silicon Valley boys did it. A lot of them, the AI, I was at the TED 23 conference in Vancouver in April. Look, more and more and more, you understand that if you're in these spaces, the people who are making waves with AI, OpenAI, the co-founders are the people who have, created the very popular ChatGPT, all these people. They were just boys in their rooms creating, but they went to spaces, big tech conferences, interacted with the money bags, the money makers, the billionaires, and sold their ideas to them. And they too are always looking for the next big thing, because it's a competition for them. Who is investing in the next big ticket item? So they're pumping in billions of dollars, and now the whole world is talking about AI. But really, they don't even understand the framework themselves. They don't know what they've created. Now the conversation is being had about how do we put structures in place, how do we secure jobs, all that. But global institutions and governments are talking about this, and these are young people. So as creatives, to make big money moves, or big boss moves, sometimes you need to realize that it's not always about big money, but it's big capital. And big capital, a lot of the time, is human beings.
You mentioned AI, and I've been reading about transhumanism and this idea to do away with fragility, the fragility of our human body and mind. I mean, the minds of proponents of AI, with things like ChatGPT. I'm reading that you can have prosthetic limbs, for example, that will outrun natural limbs with AI. I mean, those are the negative sides, of course. Then the positives where you can have, for education, you can have quantum, what is it called? Quantum something, where it's like teleporting yourself for travel. You can, virtually carry out surgery like you're somewhere else in 3D, blah, blah, blah. But, I'm just wondering if we're not moving too fast and if we're moving towards the best or worst versions of ourselves, Elon.
AI. To be frank with you, I'm not really, really, really interested in AI, to be very frank with you. One of my infographics sent me a cover of this, and he did something with AI and sent to me, say, wow. And I told him that it's horrible. I thought this is horrible, and that, frankly, I don't want to deal with that. So I think that there's good aspect and bad aspect. But from where Elon is, I'm talking about Elon. Elon is not really, really, really interested in AI for the moment. I think we are in a situation in Africa that there's things that we need just to find out that are there, that are valuable, that we need to understand first, and not just to follow people because there's something we get into it. I'm not saying no. Maybe I know where I say, okay, but for where I am, I'm on many research terrain already that I have not finished and get to AI. And also, I think all these platforms are not ours. Instagram, Facebook, all this, we are there because we are trying to cope with the system. But we need to create our own system. And our own system, some are there already. I would like to talk about traditional spirituality, for instance. Maybe that's our AI. When you're talking now, think that people want to teleport. In my culture, something like Zindobo, like you can disappear and appear somewhere. In our imaginary, I think in West Africa and Africa in general. And I went to see old people that, they know how to do that. And they say, teach me. They say, you have to be initiated before, indeed. Maybe this is our AI. So I think that I won't say no to what people call like modernism. I won't say no to it. Like, for instance, some days you want to understand, I'm going to Bilbao next month, and that lady, she's from Congo, but she was born in Spain, and we are working together, and she doesn't speak French and English. So sometimes she sends me things I put in on Depot, and so we can have good aspect. But as creative, I don't want to go and put those. I think there's things that I need to craft with my own mind. That's very important for me. You see, I'm still there. Maybe I'm late, but I don't want to rush. I don't want to rush. I think that, this morning that I heard from that Gan symbolism. Like, I'm here, but I'm thinking about that Gan symbolism. Like, all the things we can do with that. How can we mix it with Akan symbolism, Ewe symbolism, Ethiopian symbolism? I was in Ethiopia, so that they have their own symbolism. We have to do these works. This is what, for me, this is, in terms of creativity, I think there's a lot of tools that we can use, we can mix, we can merge, we can craft. Then I'll put myself in AI. And we can never win war when we cannot create the arms of those wars. Mm-hmm. And for me, these wars, they have the tools. So each time you want to be on other people's terrain to fight, no, we cannot win. You have to bring people to our own field too. But we don't know our own field. We don't understand our own field. So I don't think we can do that with AI. I think that there's old people in the villages, because most of the time we're talking about Africa. Africa is not the town. The towns in Africa, for me, are just the periphery of the Western world. You go to Lomé, people want to go to Paris, to France. You go to Ghana, they want to go to London, in the US. Yeah, I saw people in Ghana, they never go to Benin, never go to, but they want to London, US, etc., etc. So for me, we need to find a way not just to follow the move all the time. We can see how we can take from there to understand, but I think our first move have to turn back to who we are. That's the way we can protect ourselves from all the bad aspect of all this. You see, so today, last time you say, I have a friend, he's creating weird things. For me, this is weird. And he's very happy. See this, see this, see this. He said, and to finish that question, somebody asked me that question one day. I said, I want to create like organic food. For me, art is awesome, like food. And I think that one day, when people will be tired of all this AI thing, because people will put things, we will sell the organ. Like today in Europe, talk about bio. We are bio. That bio things that we steal. Let me talk a little bit about voodoo, for instance. You see? When you're talking about voodoo or African spirituality, for instance, we can say all the aspect that people say we are being juju, bad things, etc. But we don't see all the aspect that you have to respect the environment. You have to do this because you have to do everything with plants and herbs. So when you put buildings everywhere, where can you get these herbs? All the things we call weeds. You go to a village, the people tell you that this cure this, this cure this, this cure this, this cure this, this cure this. So for me, AI can have good aspect. But if you don't know how, we just jump in things, we follow a system that I think we need to, how can I put it? Sometimes people tell me, you have to think twice before talking. You don't know who is listening to you. For me, we need to fight those systems. Yeah. So you cannot, I think, who said that? I think it's Old Lord. She said, you cannot dismantle the master's house with the master's tools. I'll stop there.
That was heavy, yeah. That was heavy. And on reconnecting self with earth, with the divine, with what we have, there's a lot of conversation about living off the grid, disconnecting from staying on our phones too long, finding our cure in what we eat, growing our own food, using our architectural systems, and I'm wondering how, if we've thought about it, if it's sustainable, if it's envisageable long term, is it something that's appealing to us, living off the grid? Say, for example, and even it's financially sensible, where if you're in Ghana, you don't depend anymore on Ghana water and sewage, or you have your own well. What are our thoughts on disconnecting from, and not alone, I guess, because it won't work alone, but having communities that live more, what's the word I'm looking for? Sustainably, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, look, sustainability, some years ago, we would never have had big ticket pharmaceutical chemical companies producing toothpaste with charcoal in it. Decades ago, when we as Africans would put ashes and lime on our toothbrushes to brush our teeth, they'll tell us it will corrode the enamel of our teeth. But now they are bringing it back to us and selling it to us as a better alternative. There's herbal toothpaste, all these things, right? So we've always had, and to piggyback on what Ellen has said, we've always had the solutions, always. We've always had them. But what we haven't done is come together to make them work for us. Living off the grid. Let's talk about social media. Nobody thought about TikTok and what it would become until 2020. Again, I'll reference this TED conference in 2023. The TikTok boss, the CEO, was there. Every question he was asked, he was very careful about how he answered it, because at the end of it all, he cannot offend the Chinese government, who has given him and his team the opportunity to operate a platform that's homegrown by Chinese people. So when he's, you were at the US Senate and this and that, you answer the question very carefully, because I don't care who you are, I am Chinese, and it is a Chinese product, and it must thrive in China before it thrives in anywhere else. What social media platforms are we building? Until we do that, we still need to connect to the outside world. We can't afford to live off the grid as it is now. I believe in structure, and structure has to come from a carefully laid out plan. Together, what are we doing to ensure that we can do that? Solar systems are still expensive in Ghana. Why? Wind systems are still expensive in Ghana. Why? We have water bodies all around us. What are we doing? We are galamseying them away. And nobody is talking about it. I remember in 2017 when City, the Daily Graphic, Multimedia, we came together and we started a media coalition against galamsey. I was pregnant then. We'd go and stand on the Liberation Road, close to the Flagstaff House, share flyers. People in their V8s won't even roll down the window because if some people are doing something in some village somewhere, how does that affect us? How many years down the line are we not still dealing with galamsey, and are we not seeing the effects? The Ghana Water Company has told us that more and more they're using more alum to purify the water because there's so much coarse sediments in
And
it.
the purified water is brown when it comes
Yes.
out the tap.
It's look, we're supposed to have a turbidity of 5 for water that passes through our Ghana water turbines. The turbidity is in the 10,000s, 5 to 10,000, and we are happy with ourselves. And then when people are getting more cancers, people are dying young, we are surprised. We are jokers. We need to go back to the books and do what is right. Now, the question of galamsey, why is it happening? Because you have female farmers who are 62 and there are no pension schemes for them. So they can't afford to live and they sell off the farmlands. Their children are not interested because you've told them, trust in God, obey your elders, go to school and you'll be fine. We are not fine. So I don't want to farm. I don't want to be a failure like my parents were. So maybe I'm going to look for work in the city, or I will jackpot to, as the Nigerians would say, to a Western place and get a better life. We don't address the root causes of our problems. And then I must say that we have left the governance of our countries as Africans, as Ghanaians, to dogs. And you can quote me anywhere. Look, really, what does it take to be an MP in Ghana? Now, what does it take? You pass through a government system, maybe from high school, get into NUGs in uni, SRC, by the time you finish, you have a V8, you attach yourself to some political party, because these things are very politically jaded. You enter a youth wing, you rise, and then, yeah, my family is NPP, my family is NDC, and then we are going, and then if we get some position, then we get some money, then we are happy. It's nonsense. That is not how you build a country. I met some NPP guys a few weeks ago, and these are big wigs in the party. And I was telling them, no, first this is how the conversation started. It was the 4th of July, US, and I went for the celebration in Accra, and so I put blue and white in my hair to make the American flag. And so, we like your hair, it looks like our party colors. I said, hey, stop right there. You see red, white, and blue all over this place, and you're attributing it to NPP. So we go into this conversation. And then I said to them that in Ghana, politics is a profession instead of a service, and it is wrong. They got upset with me. But that is what we are seeing, where politics is a means to an end. It's no longer a space where we go and effect change. We go and advocate for our people to have better lives. Why is it that in 2023, we are still talking about what and what not our NHIS cards can afford? Meanwhile, we are paying NHIL levies. Why? Why is it that in 2023, when Rwanda by 2017 was doing 75% of their tax brackets, to the extent where motor taxi, which is our version of Okada, they're also paying tax through mobile money. I was in Rwanda in 2017, January. We were having a meeting with the Rwanda Development Board because we took a bunch of Ghanaian businessmen and women there, city planned, let's go and see. The government is not interested, but everybody is talking about Rwanda. Let's go and see what they are doing, right? It's not, forget what the propaganda says. Rwanda is doing the damn thing. And the Western media will have us believe that it's a dictatorship that is happening there and whatever, but it's working for them. The people are in love with their president. They have a certain kind of freedom that they haven't seen in so long. So we went there while we were in the meeting with the Rwandan Development Board CEO. There was a call that came in from the Vice Presidency of Ghana, because they have heard that some Ghanaians are there and want to talk about how you have digitalized your judiciary system, because we are sending reports back and they are talking about it. Up till now, nothing has come out of those conversations. So we are just not a serious people. Now, I believe strongly that creators, we are the future of our country and our continent. And I'm saying that because I have seen what creatives can do with very little. I have seen what creatives have done and achieved without any kind of support from a government institution. We need to, look, no matter what we do, we are political beings. It's a part of our life. It's not they were calling you a politician when you were torn. Because we are. If we don't get involved in policy, we don't get involved in the conversations and what's going on, we will lose the plot. And before you realize, we'll have nothing to go back to. And at the end of the day, we can travel to wherever we want to go, but you're always black, you're always African, always. So we really need to put our hands to the wheel, go back to the ground, work together, stop pulling each other down, stop competing unnecessarily with each other, work together, tap into each other's knowledge, and grow together. It's a very bleak thing when you talk about it, but it's possible. We can do it.